So now let's talk more about the equities market, and this time we're looking at the full year earnings result, which I mentioned earlier. First of all, we're going to take a look at the industrial giants, which of course many of the build sector cannot do without. First of all, we saw that Dangote Cement had released its full year earnings report. Revenue was stronger, even though the impact of the FX losses is still there, but revenues, on the side of revenues, was still in the very strong side. At the same time, Bua Cement, which is listed on the stock exchange, the three of them both listed on the stock exchange, Bua Cement, Lafarge, as well as Dangote Cement, all posting their results. And also we have it that Dangote Sugar Refinery has just released its report, as well as Seplat. So, but to talk more about the effects on the full year 2024 earnings, as well as the review of February and for what to expect in March, let's bring in Nabila Mohammed, financial market analyst with Chapel Hill Denham, for more details on that. Thank you for joining us, Nabila.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So, Nabila, I know that the markets, some investors, I don't know, there's been dividend announcements by some listed companies, but first of all, my focus is on the top three cement giants, Bua Cement, Lafarge, and Dangote Cement. So what are your reactions, the market's reaction on your perspective?
I mean, if we're looking at their performance in terms of these cement players, we see that the likes of Lafarge and Dangote Cement did really do very well compared to Bua Cement. And if we even look at how much they eventually want to return to investors in terms of dividend, we see that Dangote Cement dividend yield is actually much compelling relative to that of its other peers. I mean, its payout is over 100% because the earnings per share for Dangote Cement was 29 naira, but they are paying a dividend or maintaining the dividend that they paid for 2023 at 13 naira for period of 2024. So I mean, on a general scale, the performance was still good, but as you rightly said, the FX still had an impact, but it was not as much, and we still see that they posted profits, and they are also declaring dividend. That's across board. We have the likes of Bua Cement also paying a dividend of around 2 naira 5 kobo, the likes of Lafarge paying 1 naira 20 kobo. So yes, all in all, the results are relatively fair, and they are also still rewarding investors despite how hard the economy was for all players last year.
Okay, so for the interest of investors who are watching both in Nigeria and around the world, we know that Seplat, which is a dual-listed energy company, has also released its full year earnings. Now, tell us more about, give us details about this energy giant's latest results.
So, like you already said, the results came in late yesterday, and what we have seen is that, again, these results are very good. And in fact, the full impact of the MPNU deal is not really reflected yet, but we still see that it has consistently paid dividends. And the bonus shares that it has also announced is also something that would entice investors most definitely. Now, if we're now looking forward into the performance of the company, we expect that when that MPNU asset is fully added, and the opportunities that the assets being added would unlock for the entire combined entity, that would also mean much more compelling numbers in the quarters as well as in the years to come. So all in all, we like what we see in terms of the results and what they have churned out in terms of numbers and in terms of performance. And we are positive on Seplat. We are also expecting that when the entire assets are eventually added, we will see more dividend payouts most likely, as well as more reward to investors in terms of bonus shares, just like we did in terms of the final dividend that was announced. I mean, we have in total around 6.3 cents that was announced, total dividend for the final as well as the bonus. So all these are positive sentiments and positive flows that we've seen in terms of the results. So we'd expect some reaction, but what we noticed was that because of the fact that it is dual listed, there is that arbitrage opportunity that presents itself, and we've seen some pressure in terms of selling here in Nigeria. But regardless, the company is still fundamentally sound, and we expect them to churn out better numbers in the quarters to come because of the added assets as well as the potential that Seplat standalone on its own has in terms of delivering value to stakeholders.
Okay, so last week Friday, because that was the last time I touched on the equities market, we saw that that was the last trading day, and as well as the last week was also the last trading week of February. But give us an overview of the month of February, which I know was in the positive terrain for a close.
So the performance of February for the equity market was quite positive. The month returned a positive gain of 3.18%, which is stronger than 1.53% in the month of January. And when we looked at the stocks that actually contributed to these gains, we see that top three stocks actually contributed around close to 70% of the gains that was recorded in the ASI, and those stocks are Dangote Cement, that accounted for over 50%. We had the likes of MTN as well as the likes of Presco. I mean, we saw them post gains in terms of share price performance alone. For Dangote Cement, gained as much as over 20% in the month of February. So that really supported the positive return that we saw the ASI show in the month of February. And we understand that aside the fact that the stock price for Dangote Cement fell as low as 394. It presented a much more compelling entry point for investors, and that's why we saw it rally to as high as 480 levels that it currently is at right now. We also see the likes of MTN, aside the fact that for Q4 they posted a positive, the return to profit again in Q4, just like we did in Q3 stand alone. It just bodes well for investors that, okay, this company is actually beginning to turn things around, and it's likely to see them, should FX remain this stable, we may likely see them return to profit in 2025. Presco, again, is an investment story. We know that they recently acquired oil palm in Ghana, it's Ghana Oil Palm Company in Ghana, and what we know is that it has improved their capacity, and we likely see that, of course, translate. In fact, we already saw it translate to much stronger numbers for Presco, and that was what investors priced in, and we see that the stock price moved from 685 naira that it was previously to as high as 780 that it currently is at. So these are the three main stocks that contributed to the gains in February.
Quite interesting. Okay, so now we're in the month of March and marching on as far as the market is concerned. So when you take a look at all the factors in the macro economy, what will shape the market for the equities, especially within the first quarter, which will be ending by the end of this month?
So we're still expecting, if we're looking at the macro space now, not necessarily the market itself, we are still expecting that with FX stability, we should likely see the foreign investors return aggressively into the market, because if we're looking at from a valuation standpoint, the NGXSI is still relatively cheap with a much compelling dividend yield relative to its peers across the markets, other markets that we track and we look at. So aside that, if we're looking at the equities market itself, we still have the banks that are yet to, announce their results and also announce dividends that will follow. Even though it may look like there's some bit of profit taking currently, you would agree with me that most of these banks, given that they've completed some of the banks that have completed their capital raising and have also listed their new shares on the exchange, the investors would want to lock in profit and realize some of the gains, because if we're just to give you a bit of context, Fidelity's offer price was around 9 naira, and you see the stock currently at 17, 18 naira. So it's just natural to see that investors would want to, realize some of these things and take profit. Aside that would be a bit watered down when they start to release their results and announce dividends, and because we may see some level of reduction in terms of the pressure to sell some of these stocks. Now, speaking for the consumers, we see that the story across board based on the results that have been released is that Q4 standalone, that's Q4 2024 report or standalone for these consumers, looked very good because of the stability that we saw. So the story remains the same. If we see this FX stability maintained, of course, through the end of Q1 at least, we should see some of the investors take positions in some of these consumer names with the expectation that we are definitely going to return to profit, even if it's not in 25, but in the early part of 2026, given if this FX stability is maintained. So these are some of the things that I feel will shape the performance of the equity market in March. We still expect results, we still expect dividend announcements, and investors will definitely react to all these corporate disclosures or actions.
Okay, Nabila, thank you so much for your analysis. And of course, we're counting down to the market close, and we're hoping that the bulls will make a re-entry into the market. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.